Online and recording.
Okay. Hi, good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing? Doing well after the holiday season? I don't know how many folks we have online.
I don't know if they're speaking if you like to.
Okay. Well, this morning we have Raafat that's going to go through the dynamics of group processes and performance. Thank you so much for coming here.
Thank you for having me.
Love that we're here.
Well, Happy New Year, everyone. And I'm so glad to be here today, kicking the spring of 2019 season, like kicking the fall of 2018. What a coincidence. I just noticed today that I presented the beginning of the fall and now it's spring. So
You're the go-to.
yeah, maybe I make it a habit.
Yeah, I like that.
Thank you. So today I'll talk about the dynamics of group processes and performance. And just out of the way, because that's a CLM tradition, is to the speaker's goal from the CLM. My goal is to hear from you feedback about the topic I'm going to talk about, like any past work that you encountered, relevant literature, any modeling concerns you will see in the model, any potential applications or publications venues. I'm kind of interested in hearing your feedback around these issues, even before I talk what I'm going to talk about. Over the years, my personal observations working in and with groups is that there is a gap between what the accomplishments are and what the expected accomplishments from a team is. And that has been a manager's dilemma, is when you get a group of star performers together and expecting quick outcomes, there is a gap, and this causes frustration. So I think okay, that's a research question. Is it possible to
Can you minimize that?
or just bring it? I don't know if people online see it. Okay.
I'm sorry for saying that.
Yeah. So why can't we get quick accomplishments from a team of outstanding people? And which some people call it productivity issues. And this is not a new quest, I think. So it's not like something new or people just talk about it now. It's just been forever. But being in the organizational behavior side, the system dynamics and modeling side, I tried to look for answers for this question. The project dynamics view to the productivity drivers, those who are familiar with the project dynamics framework, it talks about productivity drivers as initiated by feedback from the rework cycle. And the rework cycle, if I show it quickly here, it looks to the stock of work to be done, and then the progress to work done through the staff that are allocated to the project, and then through their productivity and quality of work. It could kick a rework cycle, which is the work that we don't see. And then it comes back to affect us, and then this causes delays in projects. And based on that, there are decisions, some of them are misguided, that causes fatigue, burnout. You add more people to the team, causing skills and experience dilution, and morale suffers, sometimes cultural differences, and a host of technical matters. And this is what I mean. So this rework cycle would grow into a humongous, feedbacks that comes as the project progresses forward.
Do you also have in there the impact of adding new people into the team where you're actually losing productivity because the folks that are already on the team are now.
Yes, this is what I meant by skill and experience. Yes.
Okay.
So I'm here presenting what this literature says about what causes the gap in the productivity is due to all these, and it's discussed and modeled quite extensively in the literature. And they typically show it as different work done profiles. This is the ideal work done over time. And with rework, you have a gap between what has been accomplished and what is really accomplished. So this is one way of showing the gap. You can see it in different profiles, reported complete and the percentage of really complete, and then this is the undiscovered rework. So the view of the project dynamics looks at when you have rework, you make decisions, and these decisions impact productivity, etc., etc. So the initiator of all these dynamics is the rework cycle. There's some work also on the experience dilution and cultural differences. Excuse me for this clutter, but this is from past work. The plan, this is the blue line, and then experience dilution would create a gap, which I am zooming in here, and then cultural differences create another gap. But you can see what I want you to get from this graph is that this gap is widening over time. From the beginning, things seems to be going okay. And this is something that I've been struggling with for some time, is it really that this gap of productivity or accomplishment comes later, or it is really at the initiation phase of the project? And this is where the group dynamics view to the problem came in handy, which is the group dynamic literature suggests that overlooking new formed groups needs, including the formation time, the time needed for the group to form, and also the moving from personal orientation to group orientation, because as we enter a group, we come as a person, but then we need to assemble in this group and then work together to achieve what the original mandate of this group is. And this doesn't stop. There is also need for maintenance time to keep this group going. And that managers need to be cognizant of these needs for the tasks to be accomplished. And this is addressing the gap at the beginning of the project. It's not because there was rework. There has nothing barely accomplished in order to kick any feedback. So I thought this is what this view is saying. It says that there will be a gap at the beginning, but this gap actually will get smaller. Because if you allow for a formation time and maintenance time, the group could actually become better. This is before any rework or any misguided decisions. This is really the initiation phase. So that's where I see that the group dynamics literature can help.
I agree. I have a question. Is this this figure here illustrating the gap, is that the ideal state, or is that as it is now?
Let us say that's a very good question. Thank you, Christine. Let me say that the yellow line would be the manager expectation. Okay, I brought those people, they know what to do. I'm expecting every week something accomplished. Yes. I go on the ground, we meet, we see, it's barely moving. So you can say that this is the ideal, and this is what's happening. It's like a reference mode, if you will. That's the reference mode of the problem. To give you some quick view about these group processes that are in the group dynamics literature, there are interpersonal processes that initiate when a group comes together. Some of them related to identity. Who am I to be in this group? How much should I claim myself into this? which face shall I present to this group? Shall I be the dominant, the aggressive leader, or the humorous, tension reliever? Should I be a quiet listener or outspoken? All these things really comes into play at the beginning of initiation, group initiation. And it causes frustration, tension, anxiety. There are issues regarding control and influence. There are issues regarding personal needs, the goals that brings me to this group. And there are also acceptance and intimacy. We want to be accepted. And, people have different views around that, but they go through this dynamic, never-ending questions, or laundry list of questions that they go through it themselves. And the reaction to this, or the coping responses to this, really differ between people. Some of them take the tough way of fighting, arguing, finding their space, forcing themselves through the group. Or some would be tender, just supporting, avoiding conflict, and some would just withdraw. And if you think about all this going on while there is work to do, that's where the formation time comes in, and over time we need the maintenance time. So this is quickly what I'm talking about in terms of the things that the group dynamics literature brings to the table. And I took a shot at trying to put this in a small model to explore this and see how does it impact the accomplishment gap over time. So I'll move now to the small model that I built, and I'll walk you through it. And because this is what we learned, how we learn to express ourselves in STEM system dynamics. Let me put it to full screen mode. Is it clear? Do you see it? Mm-hmm. When I connected directly, it was better, but now it's online, so the resolution gets...
yeah, it's a little small.
Yeah, it's when I connect with the HDMI cable. But okay, I'll explain it. So if we want to let's say we're recruiting the group so that they come and accomplish something, and this group will drive the execution to have accomplishment that accumulates. If you see that I ignore that there is work to do, and it's because sometimes you come in a group that have endless lists of tasks that keep changing, and it's not the focus of this research is to look how much they have left or whatever. I'm interested in how much they accomplished, whatever the initial work to do is. This is what we call a business process. If I am a manager, I'm looking at how many people I have, and if they have work to do and how much they are accomplishing. So back to your point, Christine, this is what I'm thinking. The manager is thinking, okay, I brought the people, they have tasks, I'm expecting that they start accomplishing. Mm-hmm. However, when we recruit people and assemble group, they bring their interpersonal issues with them. And these issues just accumulate because everybody brings his share. And the self-oriented behavior in a group, with everybody coming with their baggage to this group, this will be something that will just be connected instantaneously almost. And it will have an effect on the productivity. And this is the part where those who are managing overlook what is coming. So if we, as we probably, sorry, I overlooked that because we talked about it. These are the interpersonal issues and what could they are causing, which I just described in the table. Just for a summary here, that this is what I meant by the accumulation. And these responses, the tough, the tender, the withdrawal or denial, these are causing this productivity because this is a reaction. You either withdraw and then, okay, let them do it. I'm just watching. Of course, where is the contribution? Or you're just fighting, or maybe pulling strings all over the place, and that has an impact on productivity. And this is what we mean by the gap. So this is the expectation, and this is what's happening. Okay? Because there is a negative feedback coming to the productivity, and that explains the gap. But this is not the end of it. The literature suggests that we need this formation time, which needs to convert this self-oriented behavior into a group-oriented behavior. And this requires that the execution fraction, if I'm spending 100% of the time working on things to do, or allowing part of the time to work on group functions, that would put the group in a position to win. The effect of this time, when we say, hey, we need a group building exercise, or it really depends. I'm not advocating or suggesting one way or another, but you hear all this happening about we need to dedicate some time for the group. And I don't think it's, and I have seen it firsthand and we can relate, it's not something that you can easily get because it's not billable, but you have to build the team. So the group formation would transfer the self-oriented behavior into a group-oriented behavior, but this would have a cost to it. And what do we mean by that? We help people see differences, acknowledging their presence, that we acknowledge that there are differences, accepting them as a source of strength. These things would help to move the self-oriented behavior, and we're not saying that self-oriented behavior is bad. It's actually the origin of that. This is a material to work with in order to make use of it. Because if we all come to the team, we all love each other, that's okay. We're not talking about love here, but we all having the same ideas, we're all having the same approach, what would be the outcome? But if we come with our differences, then that's a good place to work out these differences and see that they can be a source of strength instead of threat or weakness. So the claim is that with group-oriented behavior, this will have a positive impact on productivity. However, we need the execution fraction, which is theoretically at 100%, need to decrease so that we allow for the formation time. And I have checked, I was showing this to Tim before New Year, and he suggested to me the Agile literature, that they dedicate 25% of the time for team building. And I was simulating at 80%, so a 75% execution fraction is not something that I pulled from thin air. Mm-hmm. It's been used in the Agile work groups, if you will. And if we allow this, let me see, we see that there is something, I need to increase the scale, that we are slowly getting forward. It actually should go further. Let me see. Yes, if we can change different values to see how this is going to impact the values. But you see that we will lose something, but at some point we will start getting the other part, which is maintenance. You know, really group building really helps, but it's not all the story. And this is what I've seen also with Tim, that there are initiation phases, but if you don't follow it up over time, then you don't see an impact, if you will.
But also you have, people leaving, people coming, new faces. So
yes, I have not addressed that yet. before we look at this, I'm suggesting here something that it's not in the group dynamics literature, which is that accomplishments themselves over time would help to reinforce the accomplishment,
The behavior.
the behavior,
Yeah.
the group-oriented behavior.
So along with this, do you talk about communication, like the communication that the leader has with the organization, in terms of making sure that everyone understands that the leader has skin in the game, and this is very important, and he or she would articulate what people within the organization are doing and highlighting the goodness, and this in turn, motivates other folks to do more, do better.
I think, yeah, that's an important part. I think this, if we think, this is how I think we can get this feedback going. But because when people see the success together, and the leaders would go and talk to higher-ups or reinforce that this accomplishment was from this group, and it took time, however they are building it. I think this would kick this feedback here that makes really accomplishments feedback into reinforcing group-oriented behavior, because it could actually reinforce the self-oriented behavior if it is treated in a different way. That, okay, this work, it's basically somebody or some of the group have done it, but not really the group. And this could happen. You have a successful group until the first delivery, but then it falls apart. Because after this celebration of accomplishment, it's being credited to somebody else, and this, everybody will pull back again and think, why am I in here? All this is saying is that in a group, there is always going between the self-oriented and the group-oriented behavior. The drivers are different. This is just the first cut of the model. There could be other things that would drive the formation and drive the deterioration. That's the point. Once you have a group assembled correctly, this doesn't mean that it will deteriorate. And the deterioration, this is where maintenance will actually try to stop the deterioration, because there is a natural decay that would just happen. People are always, no matter how much they have to act as a group, they have also their own self-interest, their goals, their time schedules, their priorities. And if a group is cognizant of this, or a group leader is cognizant of that, this is not something that rarely happens. This is a day work, or this is how people behave. And showing this is, to me, something that would help into realizing that there is a lot of work that needs to be done, and it's not just because there is rework or there are issues in quality. It even precedes that.
It goes back to the people, and I think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If the basics aren't taken care of, it's going to be hard for them to escalate, grow up the ladder. So,
yeah, I think the group dynamics literature is really building a lot on this, definitely. I think I overlooked this. Yes, what do we mean by maintenance? Sorry, I just jumped. I tried to put all these notes on the side so that they don't obscure the model, but I forgot to talk about. These are the functions that people do to minimize the deterioration. Harmonizing, keeping things going, compromising if there are tension, gatekeeping, you make sure that contribution is from everybody, encouraging people, diagnosing issues, standard setting if the standards of the group are eroding, remind people again, and the testing to see if these standards really work. This is all maintenance work, the literature call it, and that would keep this is going. So, and that's probably a modeling concern that I have, is that the more we have group-oriented behavior, there is tendency to have more deterioration. You know, I'm not letting the deterioration go into a cloud. I'm thinking that the deterioration goes back to the self-oriented behavior. This is not something that I have seen that I have seen explicitly written in the literature, but I would assume that when we do maintenance, is that because for things not to decay or go to a previous state or to a lower state.
Well, I think we definitely, I mean, at least personally, I have experienced this working in groups.
Uh-huh.
So while it might not be in the literature, I think any of us who have worked in these complicated group settings with accomplishments know that when we have this group-oriented behavior, unless that maintenance happens, which too often it doesn't, then we all revert back to caring, because we can't care about the group because that time hasn't been taken. So we definitely revert back to our own self-needs. So it doesn't just go in thin air. It goes to that. It goes to self. Absolutely.
Yeah. This is causing me the issue of, as group, and I have to read more about it in terms of, because in a descriptive theory, this doesn't show that more group-oriented behavior could cause more self-oriented. There must be something leaking. Otherwise, the more you reinforce group behavior, the more you have to deal with self-oriented behavior. And maybe that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
But it just did not look right to me. But that's why we model, because we get surprises. And I did not expect, I thought that once they have this stock growing, there is tendency to deteriorate, but it will also, it's either asking me to add more maintenance time to it. So there is tension between the formation time and the maintenance time, because these are two separate functions. Maybe in a different phase of the group. At the beginning, you put time to the formation, and as you go, you allocate that time to maintenance. Now the model, it's treating it very simple. I have an execution fraction. I'm taking part of it, and then I distribute it between the formation and maintenance. Simple arithmetic. I haven't really played into this, so this is not a well-tested model for robustness and for trying different scenarios, etc.
I think it's a good start.
Yeah, but I'm just wanted to get feedback before I get and do many things in it. And
so I do have a question.
Go ahead.
I'm looking at the graph on the right. The blue is the leader's expectations, correct?
yes,
Is that accounted for anywhere within the model in terms of the leader adjusting his or her expectations? Because I think too many times a leader will come in for the very first time. They are not well versed in the details of the program, or the team itself, or the trials, the barriers that they have to overcome. So they have high expectations, and of course they want to impress their boss. So they're like, "Yeah, boss, this is what we're going to do. We're great." And then they get into the job, and then they realize, oh, that's not reality. This down here, maybe run 6 there. Maybe that's reality, or maybe reality is somewhere in between. I'm just wondering if that's being looked at, or if that is part of this.
So I did not explicitly model this. To me, this would look like a desired productivity and the gap, and you're trying. And if the desired goes down, that would be the change or adjustment of the goal.
Okay.
So now, if you see, that's desired productivity. That's what their goal is. So if you see there is no feedback to it, to change it.
Yeah.
Now it's just constant. Because currently I'm interested in just one state and I've seen how things are changing, but there is no feedback yet to, oh, would this change any of these goals? So I could interpret your question or your comment as a change in that desired productivity, because that's the only thing they have control over, or they can measure, or they can bring to their bosses that, oh, this is how much we accomplished by this team size over this period, and whether this would impact how they look at their productivity. Maybe because this model, it's like a molecule. Now I just created a driver for the dynamics of self-oriented behavior and group-oriented behavior. It's not setting in a project model where there are phases, for example, and maybe at a certain phase we go back and revise and then we adjust. But it could potentially be. This is, to me, I'm thinking that, let me finish up here. Oh yeah, this is your point, Christine, that we also have attrition from the team, you know?
Yes.
And this attrition could pull out. At some point, it could cause disassembly. I'm calling it assembly and disassembly. Disassembly means disintegration. But you are removing part of the team. And I'm assuming that with the removal of people from the team, you also remove part of this group-oriented behavior, because you have somebody who is fitting in, people know how to work with each other. And then you are adding another, you know?
Yes.
So far, I haven't addressed that. Just for the fact is, I need to this has to happen at some time later, and then I have to again boost recruiting. I haven't really gone through doing all this. There is also something about if the team becomes so robust and ingrained in productivity and working together, how much removing part of this team would really impact it, you know? Maybe it becomes such a strong team that because you work hard at formation and maintenance, that it could be sustained, because this feedback loop is becoming dominant. This positive accomplishment enhances the group-oriented behavior, even with a portion of the team leaving, that it still can maintain its momentum. But that's just something I'm thinking about. I haven't experimented with the model because the model needs to be improved in order to test for such cases. So I'm suggesting that this module here, or the group process module, which is not visible, but it's happening all the time, you know, that this could be integrated into different performance or different projects that deals with groups. So you just can plug it in, because it's not hard. Through recruiting, it drives the co-flow, and through attrition, it drives the removing part of the team. And the feedback to the productivity exists in many, many models related to performance. So I see that small part could be a potential add-on, and that would explain things that are happening, not when there are complications in quality, etc., but rather at the beginning of the team action. And what I have seen, and I can't say that I have seen an exhaustive list of literature, I haven't seen the treatment of the beginning or the initiation phase taken into consideration. It is always something that comes after we have complications in the work and the progress. Yeah, I think this is pretty much what I have in terms of the model. So, in summary, the hypothesis that I have is that business processes actually drive group processes, and they end up affecting them. You know, and this is just continuous. This is visible because it's easy to measure, You can measure number of people, you can see how much they accomplished, but the invisible part is this group processes. It's hard, but it is a driver to this. So that's my hypothesis. Implications of this work could be in team management practices, formation and maintenance period, changes in team composition, which we asked about, timing, frequency. These are some of the issues. When do you change? Can you change during the initiation phase or maybe later? I don't know. And of course, understanding of project initiation dynamics. And this could be also the expectations for mergers and acquisitions, because why people merge and acquire? Because we need either access to market or skills or talent or whatever. But getting all these people together, we go through this phase. And if you notice in the model, I did not use like months or weeks or whatever, I just put time, because even time units here are tricky. I don't know, it really depends on the context of application of such, is the lifetime of this group is weeks or months or years when you do mergers or acquisitions. And whether we use the correct time scale to measure success. It really depends. That's why I intentionally put the model here in just vague units of just time, not months or weeks or whatever. This is where I see this going in terms of potential applications. I don't know if it makes sense in terms of it has been done in the literature or discussed, because I'm going through the literature right now. So again, my goals for the CLM is to hear from you if you hear about past work in this domain, literature, modeling concerns that you have seen in the model, and potential applications, and typically have publication readiness.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll keep this slide. Any comments or questions?
Yeah, I was trying to think of relevant literature, and right, I think what I read about has focused on what to do once you have an issue. Let's say, you either have to lay off, 100,000 folks, or, you have to tighten the belt or, streamline some processes to identify efficiencies to reduce the amount of costs. There's actually, I'll have to send it to you later because I'll have to reference it on my phone. But there was a gentleman that wrote a book, and it was about his experience in this type of situation. And it was very much focused on purpose-driven performance, where he was very open kimono with his team, and he said, hey, look, here's the situation. Either we close down the plant, I lay off X number of people, or we all work together to really tighten our belt. And it was quite tremendous, the amount of money that they saved, just by him showing that he had skin in the game, and that he was going up to bat for his people, and that he cared for his people. And he said, I don't want to let anybody go. But if I don't let anybody go, I need you guys to be fully committed to make sure that this is a win, that we pull out of this situation. It was quite inspirational. And then later on, he does talk about how to sustain that. So I'll send that to you.
Thank you. But this group is already working together, and they have been together for some time.
They have.
Okay, but they're going through transition.
Mm-hmm.
You mean? Okay.
I know that I would really appreciate seeing a lot more about the group formation work that needs to be done. I do think there's a tremendous amount of value to that. In my own work, as a WPI staff member, being an ITP advisor. I mean, but my co-advisor and I have been really thinking about and working on what is the formation strategies we use when we first meet our group at the beginning of the year. And we've done some work in that, and it's actually improved. We feel like how the group works has improved over the last 3 years. But we really want to think about so I'm very interested in this from that perspective. Like, what can we do as advisors to really work with the group on day one so that they're more productive and they don't have the kind of fall apart thing that we've seen.
So do you see this happening in these IQP groups?
Oh, for sure. Where the group dynamics, because the project that I advise, it's usually 2 or 3 students, usually 3. And the first time I had ever advised a project, the group completely fell apart. I mean, absolutely completely fell apart. In the last couple of years, we've gotten better at thinking about what work do we do right at the beginning as advisors to kind of, again, that formation. We haven't done anything with maintenance. That would be interesting too, but really the formation, I think, is the key for IQ.
Maybe you can incorporate Chapman's model of performing, storming, learning, performing.
Yeah. I was thinking that too, like how the group progresses. Yeah, I was totally thinking that through the whole thing. You know, this how the group need change over time. If it's one, I don't know if it's true if it's more than one project, but if it's one project, yes.
So the forming, storming, performing.
And what's the other one? Forming, norming. Yeah.
Forming. I thought it was forming, storming.
Yeah.
Performing.
Yes.
And then repeat.
And then
Because what the number is saying is repeat.
What size of the group makes it no longer a group?
That's a very good question.
I used 5.
Is it a group or is it a team?
Right.
Because you try to keep your team smaller.
So if you're a basketball team, there's at least 5 starters that have to play well together to win. Your football team, you got, offense is 11. The whole roster's 53. On an NFL team, do they have to all get along or whatever? Or you start subgroups. The offense eats dinner together over here. The defense eats dinner over there. The special teams eat dinner over here.
Yeah,
you can even compete against each other.
That's true. I mean, you can have a team with
intra-group dynamics.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I was even thinking about that as a classroom teacher because as a high school classroom teacher, I spent a lot of time at the beginning, or I used to spend a lot of time at the beginning doing that group formation because I think that that's how best learning happens. But then within that, because I was a project-based learning high school teacher, I had the group, a large group, which was each individual class, and then I had subgroups within that as they're working on projects. So
certainly, military organizations have wrestled with this, and they had regiments, divisions, platoons, companies, and all that.
And it depends on the
teams and sub-teams and air wings and whatever. And I guess the smallest entity might be a controller. I'm not sure what it is, but I don't know how many people that is. But militaries have been kind of wrestling with this for like thousands of years, and they've come up with the smallest entity should be whatever the size. I don't even know what the size is, but there's.
So it's interesting because the military from branch to branch is completely different. So in the Air Force, you have flight, and then you have sections within the flight. So sections are typically like 30 people within a section. Flight is usually like 200 people on a flight. And of course, that depends on the organization too.
So I'm seeing that.
It depends.
I think it would also be interesting to see the interconnection between this and team science, which I'm saying something I don't know that much about, even though I'm currently on a project that is about team science. But my part of it is so small, like very specific, so I haven't really gotten into the literature on that, but it would be interesting.
What is the typical size of IQPT?
So the team science project I'm working on, there's a team of 4 of us. It's an interdisciplinary team to create biology, computer science integrated curriculum. The IQP teams, the ones that I work with are 3. I don't know what the overseas ones are. Maybe
3 to 4.
is it 3 to 4?
3 to 4.
Yeah, I think once you get beyond 4, 4 is
Yeah.
pushing it with IQBs and IQBs. It starts to get goofy.
Right.
So people can hide and not pull their weight.
What I think would also be interesting, but well outside of the scope of what you're presenting, is how this works when there's different power dynamics. And what I mean by that is that when you have an interdisciplinary team where you have faculty, staff members, grad students, high school teachers, I'm working on how does that impact this formation and maintenance. But again, I know it's well outside of the scope of this.
So, as if I understand that, for example, the education would be a venue for such an application.
Oh, for this?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Military.
Sports, really.
Sports, yes.
Mhm. Oh,
There were people have to work together. There was some work done around here. Retired faculty members used to try and identify your learning style, personality type, and do stuff with it. One of it was what mix of learning styles, personalities work well in a team, what mix are likely to work well, and what are not. I think one of the applications was to hockey teams. And they found that a hockey team, or a line in hockey that works well together, has this mix of people, personalities and such. And this other mix, it's a disaster, irrespective of their physical skills and this sort. And so I think there's quite a lot of applications.
there is, absolutely.
And in the system dynamics literature, have you seen something like this being addressed?
It's a great question, because where this arises the most is in group model building settings. So you're with experts and stakeholders, right, who know about the company, the governmental entity, whatever it is, and you're the modeler, and you don't have that domain knowledge, the experts and stakeholders. So you're relying on them to tell you. And how many of these experts and stakeholders do you want in the room? You probably don't want 37 people trying to tell you how to build a model. Maybe 2 is too few. You might want 5 or 6, something like that. And then we got generals, colonels, majors, and whatever power differentials, or is everybody a major and everybody's kind of the same? That, some people are afraid to speak freely in, these settings and what have you. So there's a bunch of work that's been done over the years in system analysis. How do you handle that? And this, you get into social psychology and what have you. Less so in terms of the broader problem is how do you get a team to be productive, right, to work together. But it's certainly related. So a lot of this.
I think it would be interesting too to think about a team that's already formed. In my world, I'm thinking about K-12 systems. Where you have a school, you have your principal, you have your teachers, the team is there, but now you have a new initiative, you have a new policy, and so you have to use some of those same formation strategies whenever you implement, or do you? I mean, maybe that's the question. Even though the team's already there, they're now doing something radically different. Very new. So what are those strategies? It's not really maintenance. It's almost like formation.
Yes.
Anyway.
So if people know how to work with each other and they know each other, this doesn't mean they will again function with the same effectiveness under different circumstances. Because the interpersonal issues will kick in probably in different mode, not necessarily will they accept me or not, but what would be my contribution to this issue is.
Absolutely. And what I see in the work, and what I'm looking at in STEM specifically, is what it'll drive that self-oriented behavior, because teachers lack confidence in the subject matter, and so it will degrade for that reason. But I mean, I don't know. It's my thoughts.
I see. While we're talking, I did a quick change because I told you the fraction between maintenance and, because the model is now very primitive in terms of reallocation of resources between maintenance and formation. I was putting more to the maintenance and the formation, which shouldn't be right, because when you start, I need to put formation first.
Yes.
And that's something that did not show in the simulation before, because I was adding more value to that. But just changing the formation to be predominant at the beginning would, kick in the accomplishment.
Mhm.
So it will bridge slow. This is the expectation. This is what's happening. But over time, it will just cross it. It will grow. This is if you don't do anything. You just focus on work. This is if you allocate time for formation and you
Okay.
start going up.
And that's time for formation. And
Yeah,
the reason for the time lag is because it does take time
Takes time.
to form.
yes, because whenever we have a stock and a draining process and filling, and there is a time for this to happen, it will take time to rise. And this is always starting immediately. There is no delay. Once you get the people here, it will start this execution, and you see this line going. And the other one is, why do we have this red line? Is that because we do have this negative feedback to the productivity. This positive feedback comes with a delay. That's why it lags.
Mhm.
Once you get a group-oriented behavior, it doesn't happen instantaneously. It takes time. And that's why it will always be less, but if you keep doing it, it will go up.
And that makes sense.
So even when you're doing formation, you're taking a formation time, it looks less productive and makes people more frustrated. They could abandon this.
But who does it frustrate? Leadership?
Of course,
Or
whoever is interested in progress.
so it frustrates leadership, but that's why the leader of that particular team needs to articulate to his or her boss, this is what we need to do. And here is why.
Yes.
And show the impact of them spending the time up front to get it right
Yes.
beforehand, so they can stay on track.
Because
I see it all the time. We in the Air Force struggle with that all the time, because the expectation is just that. Okay, team's here, go. Great. Well, if you don't have enough time for people to understand what we're doing, it's hard to go.
and even sometimes understanding what to do is just the technical part of it.
It is.
You are allowed this time to let people know what exactly the mission is. But how they work together, that's something that it's very hard to account for.
Those are the soft skills.
The
That's
soft skills.
very important.
You hear about team chemistry and unit cohesiveness and stuff like that. You get into issues like, what if people don't like one another? Can you still be a good team, a winning basketball team? Even if, we used to say the Red Sox were 25 players, 25 cabs at the end of the game. Nobody went out to get to dinner together or whatever, but they would win. Or if everybody loves one another and is the best of friends, maybe they're a horrible team in terms of getting stuff done, so on and so forth. So it's a good problem, and it's, I think, in the social psych literature, the management literature, probably military science literature, there's probably a lot that's been investigated with this stuff, but I doubt very much simulation modeling has been used.
Yeah.
So, wrestling with the soft concepts and all that is going to be, how to get that captured in the model. Very useful, very illuminating for people. So it's a good area to there's so many applications you can really, this thing has a lot of legs probably.
Thank you very much. This is really opening the horizon in terms of where to look in the literature to base the as an application. The grounding would be in the group dynamics literature, so that's the theoretical part. The modeling would be the tool, but in the application, I'm looking for the application area where this could contribute and bring something to the table. Yeah, I think, do we have any comments from the, no? Okay.
It's going, happy New Year. It's 2019.
Yes.
Oh my God, it is.
Another year closer to something.
I've already been starting to carve my headstones.
That's what I was just thinking. Whenever you're
Yeah.
closing it up.
I actually did have a question here, but you said the groups are small. I was wondering if
Hard to
there's
be.
a number of people in the group that affect the formation of group-oriented behaviors.
Like the amount of time needed or
Yeah.
just, yeah.
So the way I modeled it, this value, interpersonal issues per person, you know?
Okay.
So if you're recruiting 5, and then there is a fraction, there is interpersonal issues per person. So if you have 10, they'll bring more. If you have 5, they'll bring less. So it's just simple linear relationship.
Right.
Because it's a co-flow, but here is number of people, and this is interpersonal issue per person. This is just plain simple.
Yeah.
Whether this would change by if those people are preconditioned, they know each other, they have less interpersonal issues to bring with. These are one can play with the sensitivity of this and the number. But so far it's just linear relationship. The group size matters. Group size matters. But at the same time, the thing is, why it doesn't matter here? Because I don't have work to do, like so that I can make a group that can support the mandate. But so far it's open. So that's why it doesn't give any realistic view about how the group size would in fact make it more productive. But now it's linear relationship. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you coming. And yeah, have good feedback.
Exploring interesting stuff.
Thank you.
Mike helps you love this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I like this IQP thing because you guys have, you know, yeah, you see this. I can find evidence for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it really did not cross my mind at all.
It's a big theme at WPI, and we're taught, told us faculty, when the team is having a problem, don't just fix it for them. That's part of the learning process. You know, if it's extreme and somebody just is refusing, then the faculty gets involved. But first pass, it's like figure it out. Offer a few recommendations, say go away and.
But I don't know that we spent, maybe I'm not a faculty member, so I don't know if this is the case, but I feel like there's not a lot of time in instructing us on how to do that formation work. At least I haven't experienced.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of guidance on what to recommend to them. You kind of have to just intuitively or something. So.
But I'm thinking it would, this would be really valuable. I think faculty would appreciate having some kind of guidance in this area.
I think Lisa Stoddard, in the corner office here, just near where you said.
Yeah.
I think she's got a grant. I think they're looking at this power thing with women in the groups, and like the women are always assigned to take the notes by the men, and the men get this sort of power thing. So there's somebody here in the department that's investigating some aspect.
Yeah. Thank you. I think
and using I think an IQP team. So I think that's. So you might want to chit chat. I'm sure there's a literature and stuff. You might want to chat with it.
Actually, with this IQP, and my desk is next to Mike's office, so I always overhear the discussions. And so
he's dropping.
Well, with the development, I can just help myself.
It's readily available.
Yes, and I think that probably makes we need WPI student alumni and really get into work easily, because I think going through this IQP and probably not formally, information and maintenance and getting acquainted with this makes them easy to integrate.
That's what employers say. They'll say they'll take a tech kid off and over an MIT kid because of this group experience that they hit the ground running. Is what we always hear.
Okay, my research can boast about the WPI.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, this is right in harmony with WPI.